Virginia Woolf Life and Works. Virginia Woolf 1882 to 1941 was an English writer, essayist, publisher and one of the famous modernists of the 20th century. Born as Adeline Virginia Stephen in Kensington, London in 1882, Virginia Woolf was the daughter of an eminent critic and founding editor of the Dictionary of National Biography, Leslie Stephen, and Julia Princip, Dr. Stephen. Unlike her brother, who was formally educated at Cambridge, Virginia, along with her sister Vanessa, was taught at home in spite of his difference. Virginia had free access to her father's immense library where she learned English, literature and classics. Woolf's childhood came to an abrupt and suddenly after the sudden death of her mother in 1895. She suffered from her first mental breakdown and several such nervous breakdowns later. Though her adolescence was traumatic, she studied ancient Greek, Latin, German and history between 1897 to 1901 at the Ladies Department of King's College, London. Here, she came in contact with the early reformers of women's higher education and the women's rights movement. Woolf began writing professionally in her teens, encouraged by her father. Her reviews were published anonymously in the Times Library Supplement and the other journals too. But in 1904, the death of her father triggered her nervous breakdown. The family moved to the Bloomsbury section of London. It was in Bloomsbury where, in association with other influential and intellectual English writers and artists like Lytton Strachey, Clive Bell, Duncan Grant, Leonard Woolf, David Garnett, and Roger Fry, they formed the artistic and literary group called Bloomsbury Group. In 1912, Virginia married with Leonard Woolf and the couple founded the Hogarth Press in 1917. The press published much of her work. Virginia Woolf was an important part of London's literary and artistic society during the interwar period. The Voyage Out, originally titled Melimbrossia 1915, was her first novel. Her best-known novels include Night and Day 1919, Jacob's Room 1922, Miss Dalloway 1925, To the Lighthouse 1927, Orlando 1928, The Waves 1931, The Years 1937. Her literary works attracted much attention and widespread commentary for inspiring feminism. Her works have been translated into more than 50 languages. Throughout her work, Woolf was suffered from her mental illness. Her illness is considered to have been bipolar disorder, for which there was no effective inventions during her lifetime. In 1941, after completing the manuscript of Between the Acts, Woolf went into a depression. At the age of 59, Woolf committed suicide by walking into the river Ouse with her overcoat pockets filled with stones. She died on March 28, 1941. So dear students, let us start with introduction to A Room of One's Own. A Room of One's Own is a famous non-fiction literary work written by Virginia Woolf. The book is based on a series of lectures delivered by Woolf on women in fiction at Newnham College and Girton College. The Women's College in Cambridge, published in 1929. It is a major contribution to the 20th century feminist literature. The book even now remains one of the earliest and the most eloquent accounts of women's writing. The central argument of the essay is that a woman must have money and a room of her own if she is to write fiction. Virginia Woolf in A room of one's own describes the importance of financial independence as indispensable to be free to become whatever one wants to be. It focuses on the major topics of the essay, woman and fiction. The writer investigates into the lives and position of the woman from 16th and 17th century up to the 20th century. In the essay, Woolf stresses the important differences in the opportunities open for women of different social class and different period of history in consideration to the effect of women's social situation on their writing. Woolf points out how in the beginning until the end of 17th century only the women from aristocracy were able to write. Gradually the field was opened for the middle class women who could gain some access to education and through these to the world of literature. Here Woolf argues about how education is the central aspect caused for women lack of access to writing. Woolf's argument concerns the external constraints on women's creativity that were imposed by lack of material resources, lack of education, lack of social experience, and lack of access to publishing or other means of communication. She concludes how sex consciousness in creative writing is disastrous. At the end of Woolf appeals women to make their voices heard by coming out and writing.